Is going on, guys? Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good evening or good afternoon if it is for you. So we're going live across the world with this podcast episode, and I'm super pumped to get this cranking, guys. If you are coming into the episode, let us know you're in here. Let us know that you're ready to rock and roll, and we are going to be starting in approximately 2 minutes. So if you are having a wonderful start to this Thursday/Friday morning, depending where in the world you actually are, I hope it's been a great start for you guys and a fantastic, fantastic week. We're going to be talking a little bit about muscle in this episode, probably my favorite topic, and for good reason. So if you are on a weight loss journey, this is going to bloody help. All right. So we are counting down until 2 minutes. We're going to start this off. So if you're coming into this one live, guys, you know the drill. Get into the comments, and say hello, good morning. Tell us you're here, what your week's been like, and we're going to be ripping into this in 90 seconds. So I'm pumped. This is going to be a good little chat, and I think a pretty good reminder as well. Hello, Maximus. What's going on, mate? Here he is. I can display you on the screen, Max, when you're in my profile, not my group. Facebook just, it's an ass. It tries to make it really, really difficult for us. Hello, Levi. What is going on, legend? Lovely to have you in here. Levi, this episode should fit you, man, because you're starting to become super duper consistent in your approach too. Two boys that are all about the gym, and I fucking love it. Shivan, speak of legend. That's what I want to see. The new boys coming in and getting amongst this. So we're going to do this in 45 seconds, team. So I'm going to bring the crew in on Instagram. Now, I reckon these girls, ladies, if you are catching up with this one live, you better replay this episode, because I still see so many of the girls doing their spin classes. And look, spin's good. Okay, but if you want to solve this problem, this weight problem, I'm going to tell you how to solve it right now. So guys, if you're coming into this episode, we are kicking this off in 20 seconds. Hello to Instagram. Hey, Andy. Hey, Alamers. AJ. 23. YouTube, bro. Yo, yo, yo. All right, guys, I reckon we are ready to kick this off. What do you reckon? Let's do this. I'm pumped. If you got any questions, by the way, guys, you can pop them in the comments, and then I will answer them at the end of the podcast episode when we obviously cut the episode off. So let's get stuck into this. On the count of 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Welcome back to the Better Body Academy podcast. This is the podcast that you come to when you're sick of the dumb diets and unsustainable workout programs. I'm going to recommit to you guys after doing 350 episodes of this podcast. Yes, 350 episodes, of which you can go to Spotify, Amazon, Apple, anywhere you can find a podcast. And what you can do is you can search Better Body Academy podcast, and you will get 350 plus episodes where we talk about nutrition, training, mindset. But today's topic, what we're going to be doing is talking about why muscle building is critical for fat loss. And the conduit here is, or the way that it works is by increasing your metabolism. We want to be thinking about metabolism growth increase as the long-term solution to our weight management problem. And I'm going to talk about it in this podcast episode. You see, here's the thing that I don't think people get who just love cardio, right? They love cardio. I am not knocking cardio for cardiovascular benefits, as in heart and lungs. It is fantastic. If you want to run a marathon, you are a hard bastard. Like, that is good. I think it's great to do once, twice, 3, 15 times in your life, whatever it is for you. However, if your goal right now is aesthetic and you want to start to lose the weight so that you can run, there's a few principles that you need to obey. And I'm just going to tell you guys here, building muscle is the long-term investment strategy. Here's what happened last night. I went out, and not only is building muscle important for metabolism, it's really important for your life. I went out to put my bins out for garbage day in Canada yesterday, and I walked outside, And there was an old lady. When I say old, she wasn't that old. She was probably 70 years old. And she was laying in the gutter. Now, not a homeless lady, a completely normal lady, very intelligent, actually. When I started speaking to her, she was laying in the gutter. She'd fallen over while walking. And I know what that means for a lot of people. In fact, it's been talked about on this podcast episode many times. Fractured hip, she had, dislocated hip, couldn't get up. Usually it means they're immobile for the next however many months. And what ends up happening is gradual decline. It is not just metabolism that we're talking about building muscle for. It's the integrity of your whole system and your whole body. If you don't have structure and muscle tone and balance and posture, you are in for a really bad life after about 30 to 40 years of age. But we're focusing in on metabolism. So what the hell is metabolism? Because no one knows what this actually is. Well, they don't know how to define it properly. So let's define it properly in a basic sense. Metabolism is the way you take your food in and then you turn it into the energy that it's needed to use for going about your life. That's a pretty simple explanation. So how do you convert the food energy that you eat into something that's actually useful for you to use? Okay. Now, there's a term we call basal metabolic rate. Our basal metabolic rate is, just imagine that you sat down on a couch for the entire day and did nothing. You just literally sat there and maybe slept. Okay. Your basal metabolic rate, meaning basal means base, it's the amount of calories that you burn just lying there, doing nothing. What are the amount of calories that are required to keep you alive? So when we're talking about our basal metabolic rate or our metabolism, we tend to use those things interchangeably. That's a little bit different from your total daily energy expenditure. How many calories do you burn? Well, you take your basal metabolic rate, whatever that is, and you don't need to actually know the individual number, but you need to understand the concept. It's the individual metabolism that you have. And then what goes on top of that is any extra activity that you're doing. Does that make sense? So you take how many calories you burn in a day is your base metabolic rate, and that's different for different people. And we're going to talk about that right now. And then we add to that base metabolic rate our calories that we burn through activity and exercise, moving around, doing stuff, right? So that's how you would calculate how many calories you burn in a day. And whether or not you lose weight depends on that second number, okay? Now, a lot of people, including many of you listening, think that exercise is the biggest proportion of the calories that you burn. We probably think, well, I do lots of exercise, I move around, I have a busy life. I don't understand why I'm not losing more weight. Exercise is only about, for most people, 10%. And that would include me, by the way. 10% of the total daily calories that we burn. 10%. So when you're investing all your time into exercise, burning calories now to try to offset 100% of the calories that are coming from eating, you're playing at an unwinnable game. 100% of the calories that you take in come from what you eat, yet only 10% of the calories that you burn come from the activities that you do. So what's the other? It's your metabolism. Now, if you understand that concept, that the metabolism, keeping the lights on, just keeping you alive, that is the major thing that decides how many calories you burn in a day. If we can understand that, then we've got a template for this discussion. So what's the big thing about muscle and its role in metabolism? Muscle is described as the active tissue, whereas fat is described as a passive tissue. Let me make it really simple. Muscle requires lots of calories. Fat doesn't require lots of calories as a body tissue, right? And the major reason for this is that muscles are actually doing stuff, so they require a fuel source, just like your car. Fat is just stored there. It's not doing anything. It's releasing some hormones, but apart from that, it's not really doing anything. Muscle has an active role. So what are the roles that muscle has? Well, it's got to hold you up all day, like it didn't for our friend that I talked about at the start of the podcast. Okay, now she might have just tripped, of course. But if you've got no muscle, you've got no integrity, you've got no structure, you're not going to be able to keep yourself up for the rest of your life. And that's really important. Now, if you're holding yourself up all day, that burns energy. If you are moving around all day, and I'm not talking about structured exercise, I'm talking just moving, that takes energy, right? Same as if you were just driving your car around all day really slowly, it'd still require fuel. Muscle actually creates heat for the body. Muscle is constantly being broken down and replaced. So muscle demands more energy. What does fat do? It just sits there and hangs on. It just adds up and stores. It doesn't do anything. And here's the thing about adding more muscle. It has a massive impact on your metabolism, your base metabolism, and the amount of calories that you burn. Now, people try to, look at this scientifically and say, oh, it only adds a little, like 5 to 10 calories per pound of muscle. Untrue. Okay. How is it possible that, for example, I could be 83 kilos, and you might be 83 kilos, or you might be actually 105 kilos, but I'm eating 3,500 calories a day and staying the same weight, and you're eating 1,200 calories a day and gaining weight. Like, have a think about how that's possible. It's to do with the muscle and its impact on your metabolism. Is this starting to stack up? Here's what happens when you have more muscle. You have something called the afterburn effect. This is the more kind of minor impact, but I think it's worthwhile. When you do resistance training, and to a degree, HIIT training as well, what ends up happening is, because of the fact that this muscle has been damaged and moved intentionally, it has to be recovered and recharged and rebuilt. Requires more energy. So what happens is, that the only way you're going to build muscle is if you do resistance training. Well, there are side benefits to resistance training itself. The more resistance training is integrated into your training program, the more afterburn effect you're going to have. So there's two levels of this. There's the when you stop exercising, as in stop doing the gym, the increased muscle burn continues. In addition to that, the long-term effect is that it increases your metabolism, which means that all day, even when you're doing nothing, you're operating at a higher calorie burn. It's like having a truck next to a little Hyundai Excel and asking which one burns more petrol. Does this make sense? Muscle allows you, when you're in a deficit trying to do a cut, let's say you guys want to do a period of 3 months where your goal is to lose 10 kilograms. If you don't have much muscle, you're going to need to drop your dietary calories much lower to get a fat loss result than a person that has a lot of muscle. Think about it. If you're already at 1,500 calories and you're maintaining your weight, the only way that you're going to lose weight is to get in a deficit, which means either doing more exercise, which becomes hard to continue, or dropping your calories to 1,200 calories. Whereas at 3,800 calories maintenance for myself, because of muscle and a higher metabolism, I can cut to 300 calories and lose fat. Wouldn't this be great to do? Wouldn't it be great to be able to go on a inverted commas diet, but your diet is that you drop down to 2,500 calories, which means that you can still have a few beers, you can still have your indulgences, and you don't have to squirrel away these calories. This is what happens when you build muscle. It's a protection plan against future fat loss. Let's keep talking about what happens to the hormonal benefits when you build more muscle. Building muscle increases two hormones significantly: testosterone and growth hormone. These two hormones are known to independently of muscle increase your metabolism. So not only are you getting the boost in metabolism from the muscle, you're getting the boost in the metabolism from the hormones. Ladies who go through menopause, every lady that goes through menopause, when she does, one of the things that she will quote is that it gets really hard to lose weight at menopause. One of the reasons is the drop in the hormones, growth hormone, testosterone, and estrogen. This makes it hard. So it's also true in the opposite as well. For those of you that struggle with a family history of diabetes, about the best thing that you can possibly do is build some muscle. Why? Muscle is extremely sensitive to insulin, which makes it a great sponge for sugar. So, as opposed to you needing to cut out all the sugar and diet down because you've got insulin resistance, the great thing about being a diabetic or someone who has early insulin resistance and building muscle is that muscle becomes a sponge, like I said, for the excess sugar in your blood, meaning that you balance your sugar levels much better than a person with 10 pounds less muscle. Does this make sense? Guys, here's what happens after about 35, 40, and you know this. There's an idea called sarcopenia, which basically means age-related muscle loss. In other words, your muscle starts to break down at a quicker rate. Now, that's going to happen to everyone, but at different rates. So I want you to think about it this way. If you were to lose, let's say that your goal is to lose 10 kilograms over the next 4 months, but you know Christmas is coming, right? So you're probably going to put back on a couple of kilograms. Don't you think it would be a good idea to get ahead of the curve now so that if you put back on a couple of kilograms over Christmas, it doesn't really matter, right? Well, in the same way, but the opposite, if you know that you're going to be losing muscle after 35, 40 at an accelerated rate, would it not be better to get ahead of the curve and try to build some muscle now rather than be trying to be the 65-year-old person that starts at the gym trying to build muscle at 65, but being so far behind the starting line that it's not possible? Now, it takes a very mature, well-planned person to think like that, because most of us don't care about anything unless it's happening now. Muscle building is an investment strategy for the future. Let's deal with a couple of myths around muscle building before we wind this podcast up. Myth number 1, lifting weights makes you bulky. Guys, I've said this a billion times over. I have lifted weights since I was 10 years old, naturally, no steroids, eat pretty good, been consistent for 30 years, let's say. This is as big as I can get. So the chances of you training 2 or 3 days a week with okay nutrition at 2,000 calories, starting at 40 years of age and getting bulky are about the same as you winning the lottery. You might be one of those genetic freaks that just, lucky for you, starts lifting weights and just gets bulkaroonie, turns into Bulk Hogan. Probably not, though. You're probably more likely to develop a couple of kilos of muscle And that muscle will have a massive impact on your metabolism. But it's going to take a year to two of consistent training and good nutrition to be able to build it. Does that make sense? So the idea of just, I'm going to get bulky, what that's lost in is when you go to the gym, you contract muscle, which draws blood and fluid into the muscle, swells the muscle up, gives you what we call the pump. It's temporary, unfortunately, and then it's gone within a few hours. I wish we could keep the pump, but it's temporary. People confuse the pump, particularly women that go and do some squats in the gym, they confuse the pump for just some blood that's pooling in the muscles that's going to disappear. I think it's really important that we get this idea that muscle is an investment strategy for the future. For those of you that are financially savvy, I want to give you an analogy to wind the podcast up so that you can perhaps think about it in this manner. Cardio is like working another hour at your job if you get paid by the hour. So let's say you get paid 25 or 50 bucks an hour or whatever it is. You can build wealth by working another hour and getting paid for that hour. And that's a good short-term strategy. But eventually, if you keep working 70-hour weeks, what's going to happen? You're going to cap out and then probably need to stop and take a break. That's what happens with cardio. Eventually, you cap out because either you can't keep it up or your body has adapted to the work that you're doing and you can't work anymore. So the strategy of just working another hour is not a great strategy for building long-term wealth. The people that build long-term wealth are the people that understand compounding interest. Compounding interest is building a portfolio of assets that make money on the money that's already in there. This is what resistance training and building muscle is like. When you build muscle, you are not going to all of a sudden burn a bunch of calories today. But what is going to happen is if you combine your muscle building efforts with some walking and good nutrition strategy, over the next year to two, you're going to set yourself up with the long-term strategy to eat more food, to have better composition, to burn more calories because you've got a stronger metabolism, to be stronger when you're an older person. And then there's a host of other benefits that I won't bother listing now. But if you understand that that short-term versus long-term idea, it might just help when you feel like, oh, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go for another run. The another run is not the answer for most people. It is building yourself the machinery that burns more calories, just keeping you alive. Some practical tips for building muscle, I'll just bang them out. Number one, you got to focus mostly on full body training and movements that build muscle by stimulating the whole of the body. Not little bicep curls every session. It really doesn't do anything for your metabolism. Think about it. The bicep muscle's this big. It's about a third of the arm. Compare that to the chest, the back, the quads. You build the muscles that are the biggest, which push the most energy demand from the metabolism. What else can you do? Don't overtrain. So many guys are overtraining, not getting results. They look the same. Why? Because you're not giving yourself adequate recovery. For the average 40-year-old, 3 sessions to maybe 4 sessions a week is perfect. Day on, day off, day on, day off, great. That's enough. Nutrition. You need to be hitting your protein target. And if you were too low in your calories, you can't build anything because you have no energy to build it with. Number 3, is sleep and stress management. There's optimal conditions that are needed to actually build muscle. And if you're staying up every night, burning the candle from both ends, and then staying up till midnight and then getting up at 5 o'clock to do your gym sessions, you are just not getting enough sleep to let those muscles recover and actually build. It may indeed have a negative effect on your metabolism. So I'm going to love you and leave you in this podcast, guys. This is a topic that I'm extremely passionate about, because if we had a time machine and we're able to fast forward 20 to 30 years from now, even 10 years from now, I would love for you to hear this podcast and go, oh my gosh, my coach said that to me. And at the time, I was a bit unsure, but I took it really, really seriously. There's a lot of men and women in our academy that are doing exactly that, and they're getting great results. Again, to the cardio advocates, I'm not saying that cardio is bad. I think cardio is fantastic. If you want to become a better runner, if you want to challenge yourself mentally, if you want to do it in short places, okay? From a weight loss perspective, let's focus on what actually works. Building muscle. This is the best way to get bang for your buck. This has been the Better Body Academy podcast, coming to you for a Thursday/Friday. Hope you guys found this helpful. I'll see you in the next episode. All right, team. Over and out. If you have any questions, I'm here to answer them. Shari, if you're still listening, brother, good morning. And I hope you heard this loud and clear, particularly the overtraining component of this, Shari. Dude, 3 to 4 sessions for a week for you, slowly reverse dieting, slowly getting your protein intake up, making sure you're giving yourself great recovery, mate. You know how to train. Build muscle. Guys, do you have any questions? Always loves this time of day. Yeah, I'm here pretty much every day, Sammy. I'm onto it, mate. Does anyone have any questions that you would like to ask while you got me in the comments? It's funny. I don't know how many people. I think people are like, people want to hear what they want to hear, right? And this is the issue, I guess. There's so many people out there that are saying different things, but if you can take the message, this is the message that actually works. So I'm going to love you guys and leave you. I'll probably see you on Instagram a little bit later today with Carly.